my name is Kristina Bridges. I work for Cultivate Kansas City. I'm a grant writer and compliance manager. Cultivate Kansas City, has anyone heard of it? A couple people? Okay. So it's a nonprofit that works to grow food, farms, and community in support of a healthy local food system in Kansas City. And so at Cultivate, we work to increase the number of farmers growing and selling good food, and we help to break down barriers for consumers to eat healthy food. So I'm very grateful to be working for an organization that I feel very passionate about. It is not what I thought I would be doing 4 years ago when I graduated with a Ph.D. in microbiology. So I'll start and kind of tell you my path. So somewhere in the, writing up kind of midway through maybe a Ph.D. midlife crisis or something, it became clear to me that, like the postdoc said earlier, you have all these competing interests, and I think that this voice inside my head that was telling me really what you're passionate about, although you love protein transport and microbiology and bacteria, that's important, is food and nutrition and health and getting good food to the community and to children, and that was something that started when I was growing up. I was lucky enough to have a mom that was really smart about what we should be eating, and that was just my lifestyle. I moved from Southern California at the age of 14 to rural Missouri, a small town, and just seeing the food that they ate, the difference that although most of the people in the town were farmers, they were eating, fried chicken or, brown colored things on their plate. That kind of stuck with me. And then fast forward later when I'm a grad student here at KU Med studying microbiology, being at a hospital, you see people coming in and these lifestyle-induced chronic diseases that a lot of people suffer from was really motivating to me. And so I had this very specific feeling that really what I'm interested in is nutrition. And I probably should have gone into public health or, had I known that was a path, I think going to a smaller school kind of limited me. Anyhow, I started to reach out to people who I thought might have more information in that career. So I met with Dr. Carlson's wife, Susan Carlson, in the nutrition department, and she suggested that I take courses in nutrition if that's what I'm interested in. So I was lucky enough to have a PI that was very supportive, and so while writing up my dissertation, I took all the courses in the PhD program in nutrition here. And so I thought that when I graduated, I would probably transition to nutrition or public health research. But at the same time, just kind of getting involved in that world, I was in a student group called Food as Medicine, and we worked to bring a community-supported agriculture program to KU. And that was through this company called Good Natured Family Farms, which is a small mission-driven for-profit organization that has a lot of work that is funded by grants, and so they were looking for someone to run a farm-to-school program, and that spoke to me because I'm really interested in children and children's nutrition. So I took that job for what I thought would be the summer or a year, but then it was kind of a whirlwind. You are in one area, they knew I had a microbiology background, so they wanted to use my expertise in food safety, and so I ended up being director of food safety, so I worked with 80 farms around the area and wrote a food safety manual with the USDA, and I trained and audited all these farmers on how to have food safety and comply with USDA standards. And then I moved into taking over the whole community-supported agriculture program. We had an 800-member CSA at 15 different companies, so I learned how to communicate with all these different organizations and run that whole program, and that was great, and I got to do some communication and writing, newsletters and things like that, which was all experience that was new to me. And then I had my first child, so I took a little bit of time off, and although I enjoyed that work a lot, it was working at a small company is, like someone mentioned before, you wear lots of different hats, you learn a lot of new things, but it seemed a little bit too much to do with an infant. So then I transitioned through being in that industry and kind of networking and knowing people in the local food community, I had connections at Cultivate Kansas City. So I knew that they needed a grant writer, and I thought that seems a little bit more like just be sitting at a desk. I think I can do that. And so I had a little bit of grant writing experience at Good Natured Family Farms doing reporting, and we had a large grant from the Kellogg Foundation. So I took this position to do grant writing, and my day-to-day activities, part of my job is to research funding opportunities, so to find out what organizations with a lot of money really care about health and specifically with food and nutrition and food access and sustainable agriculture. So to find that and to harness the power of all this money that's out there and direct it into the organization that I believe in a lot. And then I coordinate with the program managers to capture all of the data from the year before to see how effective our programs have been, how much impact, how many people we've served, and all of that. And then to help them to come up with what objectives they have and goals they have for the upcoming year, and go through logic models and what are the program inputs and what are the outcomes that we expect, and get all of that done. And then I craft the narrative for all the different programs that we have 5 different programs that Cultivate, and so we apply to various different regional and national organizations for funding. So kind of having to craft the specific goals of each program into what the funders are looking to fund. So I had some pros and cons of working in nonprofit, and some of the cons can be that the stakes are really high when it's something that you believe personally in. So a bad day, you can feel like you've failed, children getting good food because, something went wrong, which is really, so important to you. There's a constant worry about fundraising, especially at small organizations. And it may take extra effort to find an organization that is able and willing to pay you a salary. I know that was something that was asked before when talking about working at a startup, and so it's very similar in nonprofit, and probably a lot of you think nonprofit means low salaries, but it doesn't have to. So I just want to make sure that you know that. But sometimes it's doing a little bit more research into the organization and finding an organization that's able to pay you. The pros, so this may seem like a con, and at first it was on the cons list, is that you will be asked to do more work with fewer resources. And that does seem like a con, but actually you end up learning a lot. So I've sort of thought of these 4 years that I've been working in nonprofit as a training program because I've learned so many different skills. And for example, in my current position, I write 30 grant applications a year. And so it's like writing boot camp. I'm just constantly meeting deadlines and writing, and so it's kind of forced me to overcome any, issues I had with writing. It's fulfilling work, passionate coworkers, and it's highly rewarding to see an organization that you're passionate about doing work in your city. So my specific advice was really to cultivate those transferable skills. So we all just had an hour-long talk about that, and my thinking is, if you want to do something that may seem outside of your degree, just really think about the skills, like we talked about this morning, that you do have, so able to comprehend large amounts of information, define a problem and analyze solutions. You're trained to notice deviations from that plan, which is very important and can help you if you're a program manager, program director, or strategist at a nonprofit. You can manage multiple projects. And you're trained to write concisely and logically, which is obviously important with grant writing. So the last bit of advice that I would say is, if you do want to go into something that seems a little bit outside of your field and your field of study, I think to clearly convey these transferable skills that do apply to the position that you're applying for, but to also make sure to include why you're passionate about this area or what it is in your interest that is really driving you to apply for this, because I've heard people say, you get an applicant that has a Ph.D. in molecular biology to work for this, and this must not really be something serious. They just need a job. So I think it's really important to clearly state why you're transitioning to a new field, and then that you can do the job. So thank you.